Web INC. So we make MySQL client tools like SQL Yog and Monyog. And I really appreciate your time today for this webinar, where we would be talking about high availability and scalability with Galera cluster for MySQL. The first part of this webinar would start with the significant improvements Galera cluster has done with MySQL availability and replication, which will be delivered by Sakari from Codership. And the later part of this webinar, we would really showcase our monitoring tool as to how easy it is to monitor Galera clusters with Monyog. Feel free to put your questions in the question pod. So we have a large number of attendees, so we would take the questions in the order which we receive, of course, in the interest of the time. So whenever you have a question, feel free to just type in your question in the questions pod. So at this point, I would like to switch the controls over to Sakari, and he would be with you for the first part of this webinar.
Hello, everybody. This is Sakari from Codership. I'm COO at Codership, and I hope that you can hear me well and see my screen. And what I would like to do is to give you a short introduction to Codership, the developers and experts of Galera cluster, and also introduce you to the main, most important features of the Galera cluster, why users use us and even love us. So our vision is to secure our customers' invaluable data. We do this by providing high availability clustering replication solution for open source database. And we started Galera cluster development 2007, but before that, our three co-founders had already developed 3 other MySQL clustering software, which were quite popular during that time and are still actually in use. So they had a pretty good understanding of the drawbacks of the existing solutions in the marketplace, especially with the MySQL masters rave replication, but also Galera cluster is based on academic research. It has a sound theory behind it, and it's not just something that we invented by ourselves, but used a academic research how to do, for example, Multimaster conflict resolutions. Our product today is Galera cluster for MySQL, but Galera cluster is actually a generic replication tool, and we could actually use it for some other databases as well. MariaDB uses our Galera cluster for their MariaDB enterprise cluster or MariaDB cluster, and Percona uses our Galera cluster for ExtraDB cluster. Our business model is open source. You can download it for free from our website, and we offer our customers support subscriptions to provide support for business critical application, fix bugs, etc. Today we are version 3.20 or 21, and this version supports MySQL 5.5, 5.6, 5.7 versions. We also support MariaDB 5.5 and 10.1 versions. The latest and greatest with Codership is that last year we passed over 1 million downloads. Today we are about 1.5 million downloads altogether. And there are thousands of users who use Galera cluster in production, in e-commerce, telecom, banking, insurance, gaming, marketing, advertising, etc. So Galera being tested in a lot of different kind of workloads, applications, networks, and different kind of Linux versions. Today, Galera cluster is the default high availability solution for OpenStack. 39% OpenStack users report in the latest survey that they use Galera cluster for their data store. All the big vendors like Red Hat, Ubuntu, Mirantis, Rackspace, Dell, EMC, etc. are referring to Galera, and whenever they deploy OpenStack to their customers, they use Galera cluster. Galera is also getting into the Linux distros. It is on the way to the next Debian version number 9, and it will be in the Red Hat and SUSE Linux distros as well later on. In 2014, we were the community or the application of the year in a MySQL community. So what is Galera cluster? Galera cluster is a high availability, scalability software solution for web, mobile, enterprise applications. And the key features of Galera cluster is Multimaster, meaning that you can read and write from any of these databases. They all have the identical copy of the database each time, and we guarantee this. It is based on synchronous replication, opposite to asynchronous replication, which MySQL master slave, for example, uses. It works over wide area network and cloud. You can add and delete nodes on the fly and do maintenance on the fly. And it also provides parallel replication for better performance. Let me go through a couple of most important features in the Galera cluster in more detail. So what is the Multimaster? It means that you can issue any transaction to any Galera node. Read and write everywhere, anywhere. From your application point of view, it looks like a one big database, even though there are several replicas in the cluster. And it's a core feature of the product. It's done by design, and it's not like a clever trick that happens to work, or we would ask you to write to different tables to avoid the conflicts when you update the same row in the database. So we do have this automatic conflict detection and management, and it's available out of the box. You don't have to configure it, but it's all available out of the box. But of course, you can configure it to use as a one master and several slaves as well if you want to, but typically people use it as a multi-master. And the benefits of the multi-master, opposite to master-slave replication, is that there is no data loss, you don't have slave lag, and it offers 24/7 service availability. And the operational ease of use are significant. There is no need for complex failovers that you need to maybe script or do manually. You don't have to do read and write splitting. And you can use any load balancer on front of the Galera cluster, any hardware or software load balancers. You can do easily scheduled downtime, and node failures will be handled automatically. And you can delete and add nodes on the fly. And it also works in the wide area networks and in the cloud. So let's take a look on that more in detail. Even though it's a synchronous replication, it works fine between the data centers. There are hundreds of customers who are using Galera clusters between the data centers because they are looking for a disaster recovery, or they are looking for fast local reads and writes for their users. And in the version 3.0, like 1.5 years ago, we really optimized Galera cluster for the one usage. We have now optimized network protocol, which means that we only do communication at the commit time. And so we don't send any messages between the data centers for nothing, only when the transaction is committed. it's topology-aware replication, which means that we only send the update to the data center once, and then we replicate the data inside the data center to the cluster. We also can find out if there is any issues with the network, and will evict any nodes that are unreliable. Also, we want to do manual intervention, manual joining when the nodes are brought back to the cluster again. We have a split brain recovery and management. Typically, we ask our users to use 3 data centers. And also we ask, when you build up a Galera cluster, we ask you to build up a 3-node Galera cluster because of the high availability reason and for quorum reasons. But you can also do 2 data centers and two Galera node clusters. Then you should use what we call a arbitrator. And you can find this arbitrator from our documentation and in our videos from our website. We also encrypt the traffic when we send it over to the data centers. So in summary, you have a super fast reads and writes locally, and only delay what you see is on a commit time. And the commit time is depending on your round trip time between the data centers. The delay is round trip time or 1.5 times the round trip time. And this works for many applications totally fine. We also have parallel replication for better performance. You can open up thousands of concurrent users and they can apply parallel into the database. We can open up any number of slave appliers into the database. And this happens on the row level. And the parallel is it is happening only, it is parallel only in applying, but when it comes to the commit, the order is dictated. We make sure that your database remains consistent. So, in a summary, Galera cluster made significant improvements to MySQL high availability and replication. And the main features are true multi-master topology, read and write to any database, synchronous replication, no slave lag, no data loss at the node crash, parallel replication for better performance, automatic node provisioning, add and delete nodes. It works over wide area network and clouds. You don't need complex failover, and it is transparent to your application. It looks like a one big database from your application point of view. As said, we offer support, and we do recommend business critical users and applications to buy our support subscriptions to secure your production sites. It offers unlimited support tickets, hot bug fixes, and builds if you happen to hit a bug. We have a chain desk ticket management system to manage your tickets, etc. We also offer consulting before you go to the production. We can do proof of concept work with you. We can deploy the Galera for you. We can do some configuration checks and application reviews. And finally, I'll give you some pointers to our most important resources. First of all, the software can be downloaded from our website, from galeracluster.com, downloads. We have ready-made Linux packages and repositories for all Linux variants, and also free BSD. If you want to install Galera cluster, there is a video. If you want to take full advantage of Galera Multimaster, there is a video. If you want to do replication and build geo-distributed cluster, there's also video on our website. Plus many other best practices, videos and blogs can be found there. But with that, I'd like to give the mic to our friends at Mon.
All right, thank you, Sakari, for a good overview of Galera clusters and how it allows you to achieve a good MySQL availability and replication. So once you achieve that, it becomes essential for you to monitor all the Galera cluster nodes because you would definitely would like to become better at monitoring your MySQL instances proactively rather than being reactive all the time. So I have set up a quick demo instance. I'm not doing a lot of slides. I would rather like to show a live demonstration of how things work with Monyog. So for this particular webinar, I have set up a few Galera nodes. I would like to first start with the different sets of monitors that Monyog comes with. For all the people who are new to Monyog, Monyog is a MySQL server monitoring tool which monitors MySQL, which is either standard or hosted on the cloud, or even both, because it's an agentless monitoring tool. You do not have to install any agents to start monitoring your MySQL servers. So you can monitor all the flavors of MySQL, like MariaDB, Percoma. You can also monitor AWS RDS MySQL and also Aurora. And basically, if you plan to move to the cloud, you don't have to change the solution because Monyog works perfectly fine for monitoring both standard and hosted MySQL. So Monyog comes with 600 plus best practices monitors and advisors. So all the monitors are nicely consolidated in the monitors tab. As we are talking a lot about Galera clusters in this particular webinar, so I have set up 3 different Galera nodes at 3 different locations, 2 in California, 1 in Virginia, and you can see that I am on Galera monitors at this point in time, where you see a lot of monitors going on. Once you would start using Monyog, it's not enabled by default. You would have to go to Manager Monitor Groups, and you would have to enable this icon here, like you have to enable Galera monitors and just hit save, and then you would be able to see all the Galera monitors right here. So there are very important monitors to make sure if the basic functionalities of the Galera cluster is proper. For example, if the nodes are replicating properly or the nodes are operational, etc. For example, you see cluster status. So this monitor tells about the status of the node in the cluster. So it must be a primary, as any other value indicates that the node is non-operational in the cluster and is experiencing partition. And if this trend continues, the node will be evicted from the cluster, which is not a good situation, of course. So you have got all the alerting going on for such monitors as well. You see a flag alert enable. You just click on that. Basic alerting condition. You can set the critical warning thresholds, email recipients. Pretty simple interface, and you would be you would start receiving alerts if something is going wrong, and this helps you become better at proactively monitoring your Galera nodes. I'm not going into much details about each monitor because every monitor would have a different use case as per your environment, but we cover almost all of the Galera cluster nodes monitors that you could probably monitor with our tool. There are 2 important benefits of using Monyog for monitoring MySQL instances, which are first, avoid the visibility gap across your servers, and second is allowing you to achieve faster issue resolution time. So these are the 2 principles in which we really wanted to develop this tool, and we are enhancing it every day to make sure that we stick to these principles. So the first overview that I'm showing you right here is inclined towards avoiding the visibility gap. So with overview, you get a bird's eye view of your MySQL environment, the state of your servers. and how many alerts you have going on your MySQL environment that you are responsible for monitoring. So all of these critical alerts and warning alerts are coming from the monitors page where we were at. I showed you how you set up alerts for one monitor. You can do that for all the monitors that make sense to you, and gives you a nice drill down. So the most interesting feature here is monitoring the top 10 queries across the limited set of servers that you're responsible for monitoring. Because if you're a smaller deployment, you would be interested in seeing, okay, maybe what is going on in terms of top 10 queries across 22 servers. But if you have like 200 servers deployment, then there would be a set of teams who would be monitoring X number of servers, which could not be equal to 200. So we give you the flexibility to select the servers. You can search for the server either by tags, or you can select individual servers, and you get the top 10 queries for those servers. So gives you immediate candidates for cleanup, like take immediate action on the query that is getting flashed here based on the total execution time. And I would like to see from which server it is getting generated, and all the matrices that make sense to take immediate actions. A good drill down that you can get from the overview is the critical alerts. Once you click on that, you would get all the servers stacked together nicely in terms of a grid view, where you see the servers are sorted by the number of critical alerts that they have. So the server that has the maximum number of alerts, so Galera California server is having the maximum number of critical alerts for me. So I would take immediate action on that to see if the alert really makes sense to me, or I can just close it. And it's very easy. If it is something that you should be taking immediate action, you can further drill down from here. And if you would like to do a historical trend analysis, we have made the quick time ranges consistent across every page. So you just have to select whatever time range makes sense for you, and how back you want to go to see how these values were before. Now leaning towards the other principle that I was talking about, achieving a faster issue resolution time. So the query analysis feature of Moniog is the most powerful in the industry, because we offer 3 logs for analysis: low query log, general query log, and one which is very unique to Moniog, which is sniffer, which has different modes as well, which I will demonstrate in a bit. So it is very easy to analyze this low query log for a particular server that I want to take a quick look at. You can concentrate on the areas that yield the highest value, rather than shooting in the dark and figuring out what is going wrong with this particular server. So I would see that, okay, the user and the host involved for this particular query, and I've got the total execution time and the average latency, and in one click, I can get to the details of the query, the example, and the normalized query, and all the related information, which a good interface lets you uncover in a few clicks. So it helps you save tons of time on a daily basis. A general query log is something that you would not do a lot of analysis with, because it puts a lot of overhead on your server. But for demo purpose, I can take that risk for like a couple of seconds. So you see all the general query log puts all the queries that are getting executed on your server, regardless of the time, and it lets you uncover the query that would be missed probably in slow query log. So you can further drill down to the queries that need optimization. Sniffer is something which is very unique. As I said earlier, it fires show full process list every second on your servers and fetches information, puts a nice snapshot here, shows you the top 10 from the several queries that you have got here. If you're not satisfied with the metrics that are displayed here, you have got further options here, and you can enable many options which would not be a good fit for everybody, but you can select as per your needs. So maybe you would want to enable lock time, and that gets displayed here, and it's that easy. I want to quickly show the configuration of the different queries in the sniffing mode. So let me just quickly go to an edit server. and you see the MySQL query logs, and we have got sniffer here, which is very unique to Moniog. And if you are on MySQL 5.6.14 and above, you can make use of performance schema table to uncover all the queries. By all the queries, I mean even the queries that ran for less than a second, which could be problematic. And you can make use of process list. At the same time, in the MySQL proxy, not many people are using it. Max scale is the preference for many of the MariaDB users, but MySQL proxy still works for many of the users. So you have got that option here as well. So I'm just quickly going through all of these settings because I wanted to focus more of your attention on the customizable dashboard, because this is something which can help you a lot regardless of what flavor of MySQL you use, because it ships with a default performance metrics dashboard, which has connections, statements, database throughput, CPU usage, and disk I/O. I would say this is very useful in the case when you have pushed new capabilities to your application and you want to see how the resources are keeping up with the production demands. CPU and disk I/O could be a good metric to have a good watch at, and you can blow up a particular chart, drill down what is causing the spike. Any of these candidates would be causing that particular problem. Further drill down to the query level and see what has been going on. So makes you productive, helps you save a lot of money in terms of time that you can put on some other project. So and helps you succeed in your role, basically. I would quickly go to the Galera transaction dashboard that we have set up for this particular webinar. Here, we have some basic but important Galera monitors getting charted here, like Galera transaction, cluster throttle time, write sets received, write sets replicated, and you can add the monitors as per your needs. It's fully customizable, and you can blow up this particular chart and you can drill down as I showed before. Let me quickly demonstrate how easy it is to add your own dashboard. For example, I'll just give it a test name, and then I would just add some Galera monitors here to quickly give you an overview that how easy it is. I'll just take 2 monitors for now, and you can see those metrics getting plotted here, like very easy. And you can, and it looks very nice on the big screen. To be really honest, I've seen this with many customers, and they love it. It's as I said earlier, very easy to go back in time and figure out what has been happening. You can also do real-time analysis of your nodes that you are monitoring, because slowly and steadily you will figure out that there is a point in time when everything is not going fine. Turn on real-time and see what is going on at that particular time, rather than assuming and trying to troubleshoot a lot of things. Focus on the real meat behind the potatoes. So here you can see the real-time session, which I have turned it on from quite some time, and still going on. Because you see the pause option here, it's not paused, so it's still going on. And I can just drill to a particular spike, see all the queries that could be resulting in this spike. The same thing that I showed in query analysis. You can go to the problem right from here. You can switch between statements, bytes, connections, and table logs. Table logs is very heavily used by a lot of our users. The most important and I would say neglected benefit of Moniog that I would like to particularly bring out is the configuration changes tracking, because we have seen that many of the users, they are not inherent users of MySQL. There could be like legacy applications that they handed over and they migrated to MySQL or MariaDB, and they're slowly scaling up, and the team size is also increasing. Many members are playing around with the configuration to see what makes the server perform really fine. But at the end of the day, people do not keep a track of how the configuration has been changing, because you try to optimize everything, but the performance degradation reason could lie in the configuration changes. So in one click, you would be able to see the configuration of the servers that got changed. If it is acceptable, you knew about it, you can ignore it. But if you see that, okay, this is not acceptable, you roll back to the default and see if the performance is improving. You can also track the configuration for a particular server that you would like to see, like, okay, if anybody has changed the settings or the configuration over time. So I see that, you know, some good amount of changes happened on my master server at 2 different time points, and I can easily see that, okay, you know, these were the changes were made, and I can make myself aware rather than relying on my teammate that, okay, if some changes were done or not. Replication is the most loved view in the entire interface of Monyog, because it gives you a nice topological view of your replicated servers. So right now, you know, we had a small setup in our data center, so we are just replicating that here. Very easy to understand. Everything is stable right now. If servers are not in sync, you would see them in yellow. If it's not connected, you would see it in red, and you would like to know why it is not connected. So suppose if this server is flashing in red, you can just click on that, see all the values that you should be aware of, and figure out why it is not available, and put them back in sync as soon as possible before your customers notice. Cool. So that pretty much brings me to the end of this quick walkthrough of Monyog. Now you would be thinking that, you know, how can you get your hands on Monyog? So you can go to monyog.com. We have a 14-day free trial available. We have good, friendly support folks that support you unconditionally during the trial period to make sure that you are able to get everything out of it in that 14-day trial. And we also offer free product demonstrations as well. So you can go ahead, give it a spin, and see how it works for you. If you would have any further questions about Galera cluster nodes, you know, how can you monitor those nodes with Monyog? How can you take support for Galera cluster? You can reach out to us, and we will be happy to assist you. And that brings us to the end of this webinar. And now we would open up for a Q&A session. We would have had some questions, so we would just take them one by one. Okay, so the first question that I see here is from Mike. Can we get alerts if cluster goes down or any of the node in the cluster goes down in Monyog? Well, I think that's a great question. So of course, yes, you can get alerts from the different monitors in the dedicated monitors group in Galera that I showed earlier. It has monitors like numbers of nodes in the cluster, cluster connection status, you know, which will raise an email or SNMP alert. So all of these monitors are open to the users to edit, and you know, you can set up your own threshold values depending on your environment. It's pretty easy. All right, let's move on to the other question, which is from Anup. Okay, how can I add Galera monitors to this server? Is it default with new Monyog version? Okay, so the Galera monitors and charts come shipped with Monyog but are disabled by default. I showed you earlier in the presentation itself that you have to go ahead and enable Galera monitors groups, and I can send you a couple of screenshots after this session. It becomes very easy for you. The third question is from Desmond. Okay, can we use Monyog to monitor Galera cluster that is hosted in Amazon AWS? Great. Yeah, it is possible to monitor Galera cluster hosted in Amazon RDS. Because as I said, Monyog is agentless. It doesn't require you to install agents to monitor databases. So regardless of where the cluster is located, Monyog can effectively monitor and track performance of your systems. And I think there is one more question. So I would just quickly go to that question. The last question is from Theorage. Can we monitor 3 node clusters in a single dashboard? Yes, of course. You can monitor any number of nodes of the cluster. You will have to add all the nodes in Monarch and select them in dashboard page. It's very easy. You can monitor as many nodes as possible. Okay, so there is a Galera cluster question that we received earlier. When is two-phase commit support expected for Galera? So this is, I think, I have a note here from Sakari that it requires a lot of technical explanation. Don, he would be, not Don, but Sakari would be emailing Don about the technicalities involved in this question. And I'll make sure that you receive a response for that as soon as possible. So we have several other questions going on, but I think in the interest of the time, we would take it offline by email. And I really appreciate all of your time today, and I hope this session was informative. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are always here for you. Take care. Bye.